Man, almost gave me stage fright. It's been so long, but it's me, Jaimir. I used to be a broadcast tech. Then I was Professor J as your Virtual Village 2020 influencer. And today I'm just Jaimir, coming to you as a college student representing Howard University, as you can see. And what we're doing here is basically looking to what we got going on now and beyond that, hence the name 2050 and beyond right there. Oh, you see I'm rusty right there, but we are representing clever communities in action. Not enough though. Still got it with me. CCIA right there. And we already got some comment. How you doing, Miss Houston? How you doing? We are happy to have you here with us today. And I'm just going over what we getting into. And basically, this is my new show, 2050 and Beyond. And the premise of it is something that Miss Star always tells me, is that you shouldn't be planning for today or tomorrow, but more so if you're going to be in the game of Black liberation, then you need to be thinking on the basis of 2050. And I wanted to go beyond that, which is because this is all it is to me, is just passing off of the baton. Ooh, we got a couple people in here. All right, starting off strong. I see you. I'm happy to be back, Virtual Village. So I'm happy. Everyone's here. Professor J, that's my old moniker. But I'm just here as Jai today. I got to get back in my bag first before I become Professor J. It's something I got to unlock. But like we said, this is Clever Communities in Action. I am a branch under them. And with the mission of CCIA, we're just trying to push culturally affirming literature and Black awareness and appreciation, just so we can also build those strong foundational skills, but those strong foundational skills of literacy and cultural affirmation, because it's amazing to be Black. And how you doing, Miss Nicole? How you doing, Mr. Tisha? Always happy to have you in the Virtual Village. And what's going on here is I'll be having an HBCU roundtable of sorts. Got 10 people in the first 2 minutes. Got me feeling all special. Oh, shucks, now I see. So we'll be having an HBCU roundtable of sorts where I'll be bringing on college students from different HBCUs. And I'll also have two co-hosts with me. And this is probably too much outcry to other people, because it's always the same big school mention, which is Howard University. But I had to put on for the Mecca. I had to put on for the capstone of Black education. That's a deep cut for those of y'all who didn't know. And I just wanted to bring on two great dudes who I know have some of the best conversations with, because while things are virtual, we still be able to get into it and just have that sort of college experience still. And the first one I wanted to invite on is my friend Joseph Sturgeon III right there, as well as my good friend Obiora Okiki. And if you guys didn't know, Joseph here, still got it. He is, I think he's an editor for what is it, Ukulele, which is
a student review, the Howard University Undergraduate Research Journal.
That's crazy. This just an editor as a freshman, big things over here. And then I think this guy below me right here, you do, what's your title again?
Mr. Freshman of Howard University.
Mr. Freshman of Howard University. So if you guys didn't know, we got Solomon Grayson right there. That's another Howard brother right there. That's another fellow Bison. How you doing? And Mr. Houston is saying hey to you guys once there. And what we're doing right now is we're just getting into it, sort of discussing anything we can, basically, because the voices and the opinions need to be heard from the people who are going to inherit the problems of today. And that's what this platform is. And having it HBCU specific definitely is something I wanted to do, because I wanted to rep my HBCU, even though I couldn't actually be on the yard with my HBCU. So this is how we take the HBCU experience to you. Unfortunately, we can't swag surf, but we'll be doing something different, which is Mr. Sims said, awesome. And we happy to be back. But like I said, we do have something here, and this is like I said, it's just something that's really dope to me, because I talked about cultural affirmation with CCIA and also just loving your Blackness and talking about the Black liberation movement as a whole. But I also wanted to give a little throwback to everyone who was here with us last season with our teach-ins and who seen a familiar face here and there, and that's Shania. So Shania is going to do what she's always done for us, and that's start us off right. So I'll be back after this.
Greetings, virtual villagers. My name is Shania, and do you know what time it is? It's affirmation time! Time to remind ourselves how great we are. So everybody, Repeat after me. I am smart. I have purpose. I am confident. I am valuable. My voice is worthy of being heard. I am an asset to my family, school, and community. I respect myself and I respect others. I am beautifully made inside and out. I love my beautiful hair and I love my beautiful brown skin. I am more than enough. Great job, virtual villagers. Can I get a virtual high five? Great job. And always remember how fantastic you are.
You guys should know, always remember how fantastic you are. We are always more than enough. And that's something I really want everyone to know, because a lot of the virtual fatigue has really been getting to a lot of people. So just remember that you are loved and there are people out there, the virtual village, CCIA, and now 2050 and beyond. We're there with you and we're there trying to just keep pushing with you. And speaking of keeping it pushing as a unit, I wanted to sort of start this week off right, start the whole show off right, start the whole season off right, to be real with you. And that right there is me talking about one of my personal heroes. And this is like the person who inspires my mentors in the sense, and always someone who definitely loved Black people and still loves Black people, and just someone who's always pushed Black people understanding who we are as a unit, as a conglomerate, and as a power structure. And that is the ever dynamic, the ever powerful Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael. And this is a part of the show where we'll be doing an Africana Revolutionary. This happens every Tuesday to start us off, because we want the revolutionary to understand, to sort of tie into the fact that we are revolutionaries, not just Kwame Ture, not just Charlene Michelle, not just Oscar Michelle, not just Fred Hampton, but all of us. And so I wanted to introduce Kwame Ture, because a lot of us might not know who our revolutionaries are that have walked before us. And by understanding who they are, we might be able to better understand what we're doing. And we got a couple of comments here and there. We got Solomon saying the guys, so just, and then HU24, they not here, but I'm imagining somebody said you did it with me. And we got Foley in here. Foley, that's the guy. And Miss Bryant. Miss Bryant has always been great with us. Always have the fellowship with you. But a little bit about Kwame Ture. And I'm long-winded. Y'all know that. So I could talk on and on about him. But a little bit about him. Just brief. Because brevity is a soul of wit. And I've been told many times that I be just going and yapping. But Kwame Ture was born in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, as Stokely Standiford Churchill Carmichael. That's 4 names. So you can understand why he had to shorten it down to just some 2. But Kwame Ture is one of the most important Black political figures of the 20th century, known for his powerful utterance of Black power after being jailed, abused, and berated by Southern white supremacists in the American South during the Civil Rights Movement. Baba Ture is what it means to be an Africana revolutionary in every sense of the word. Having spent his college years at Howard University, he was able to work firsthand and up close with the national politics of the time. But it was his time in the Mississippi Delta, not the District of Columbia, that truly created the powerful revolutionary we know today, having helped in the organizing of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party while working with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which he is known for, SNCC. Gave Ture a clear vision for what he wished to do with his life, organize the masses of the oppressed. This would lead him to travel across the globe, especially in the 60s, where he went to Cuba, Vietnam, Russia, Guinea, Ghana. He was traveling a lot in 67. It was amazing what he did, all in the span of a couple months. But traveling the globe, this would then lead him to predominantly work with Kwame Nkrumah and Sekou Touré, who he named himself after. taking Nkrumah's first name and Touré's last name, and then adapting it some in the country of Guinea. This is where the All African People's Revolutionary Party also began its start, which is the United Black Front that Touré so proudly and so passionately advocated for, and it's still in operation today. I'm also a proud member of the APRP, and we just had a meeting a couple of days ago. Actually, I think it was this Saturday. It was great. We got into how Europe underdeveloped Africa. So the work is still going well. The fight is still strong, and I highly suggest that everyone check out the APRP. But back to Touré. Touré urged the African people to love themselves fully, as well as recognizing their power through scientific socialism. He was a radical socialist, he was a radical leftist, and he was a Black person who loved his people. And after a continued battle with advanced prostate cancer in the late 90s, he made transition on November 15, 1998 in Conakry, Guinea, where it is said that even on the day of his passing, he still was working in his work study with the APRP. So the man was a fighter to the very end, and he went down fighting that good fight. But he made the words "Ready for Revolution" his battle cry, and they would hold weight for all of those who walked the same path as he did. And it's cool because, like I said, this is CCIA. We are a literacy-based organization and program. So it wouldn't be a Clever Communities in Action production if we didn't have, I don't know, some literature to go with it. And we have right here this book, Ready for Revolution, The Life and Struggles of Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, by Stokely Carmichael, with Kwame Michael Thelwell, who was Ture's college friend who he met at Howard University. So there's a reason why I really like Ture. It's the Howard part, and it's also because I had the book that I could flex in front of everybody right here. But great read. It's pretty thick, but it really gets into everything about Ture and what he meant and what he was doing. So I highly suggest people reading about that one, as well as reading Ture's book, Black Power, because, I mean, this is Ture's autobiography, but Ture's politics, you really get into the Black Power. So that right there is our Africana Revolutionary segment. We get into Kwame Ture to start things off, Baba Ture, the great Stokely Carmichael, and this right here sets the tone, because if you didn't know, I mentioned Howard University several times, as well as just sort of beating that in there because it's getting into our topic. But our topic, you'll see, will come after in a bit. So right after these messages from our sponsors.
This episode of the Virtual Village Show has been brought to you by Truist. Buying or selling a home doesn't have to be difficult. At the James Allen Group, we work tirelessly to get families into homes and to get our listings sold quickly at the best price. James Allen, our principal broker, has over 30 years of experience as a realtor. As a U.S. Navy veteran, his knowledge of Hampton Roads and its community is a vital tool in meeting the home buying needs of military families. If you're ready to buy or sell your home, contact the James Allen Group at 757-449-8322. Sign up today for our free home buyer or seller seminar at jamesallengroup.com.
Gonna be honest with y'all, that's a lot easier to do in front of the camera instead of behind the scenes, because trying to get all of that to flow at the same time, it was a struggle. But we got a couple of comments in here. All right, see, somebody did do it with me. I see it. Miss Bryant says she loves this, and Miss Starr, she's talking about Flex the book. I Flex this book, always will. But our next segment of the show that we're about to get into is called our History of the Topic, because this is 2050 and beyond. And before we can look to the future or even understand the situation in the present, we need a firm understanding of the situation in a historical context, which is why we have the history of the topic. Now, what's the topic, you may ask me, and then I will respond. It's the role of HBCUs in the African diaspora. Didn't you know? But before that, I need some heavy hitters to sort of help me with the history part, which is why we have two history majors who kind of know a thing or two about HBCUs and their history. So these guys are going to sort of walk through this with me, and I get to take a little bit of a back seat. Not too much of it, but we're just going to kick out a little bit of here and there tidbits about the role of HBCUs and, in a historical context. But before I let them get into it, I really wanted to state that, why do you think Charles Hamilton didn't get as much fanfare as Ture? So Devontae was a little late on this one, but that's because the YouTube comments are a little bit afterwards. But you guys want to tackle this one real quick?
Don't ask me, man.
They got stage fright, y'all. This their first time doing something like this. They not in SOC like me. They don't know how to
Nah,
communicate.
man, I'm not sure why Charles Hamilton didn't get as much.
Oh yeah, I really don't know. I think
I don't know the answer to that. I can't answer that about that.
I would say maybe. Well, it was he probably didn't get as much fanfare as Teray, mostly because of Teray's connection, like closeness with Martin Luther King Jr. So we could probably attribute many of that to the white media or the media in general. And then we have to understand that after John Lewis, may he rest in peace, Teray became the chair of SNCC. And then, so that's a little bit of love for y'all, I guess. But once again, it's still an SOC thing. So, and then Ms. Beige is loving it. And we love having you here. We love having you here. We're just having a good time right now. But I would say that Teray got a lot of more media press, which is why he didn't get as much fanfare which is why Hamilton didn't get much fanfare because of Teray's position. And I mean, after you're the head of SNCC and probably one of the most turbulent eras for SNCC, that's something. And then, okay, can you briefly tell everyone who Charles Hamilton was? So in the book that I had mentioned, Black Power, with Kwame Ture, he also wrote it in conjunction with Charles Hamilton. So it was like a duo. It was both of them. And Charles Hamilton was another great Black activist who, as Devontae mentioned, didn't get as much fanfare as Ture. And we're just sort of going over, like, what are some of the reasons why? And to me, I think it was Ture's positioning with him being the chair of SNCC and then going on to actually work with Ture and Nkrumah so closely, which made him a polarizing figure, as well as Ture's connections with Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, because Ture did meet Brother Malcolm several times at Howard University. It's a shameless plug, but whatever. So it was like, I think it was Ture's relationships as well as what the media made him out to be, which is a fire and brimstone Black separatist radical who just wanted the destruction of the country. And that's something that white supremacists love, is just demonize Black people who just want better for themselves. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why Hamilton didn't get as much fanfare as Ture, even though they did work on the book together. And then we could also discuss just the APRP work and, well, with the subsequent coups in Guinea, where Ture became a global figure because he was imprisoned wrongly during the coup, and it led many students to go out there and advocate for his release. So that right there was just my musings on that. But now we got to get back into the history of the topic, which is HBCUs. Devontae got me off a little bit. Jody and Obi just let me talk. So
I'm sorry.
I mean, you weren't wrong though. You were not wrong. He definitely was just a more prominent figure.
You can't tell me I'm never wrong.
Yeah.
That's why you sure. I knew I chose you for the right reason. But getting into history of the HBCUs weren't an actual thing until 1964. Before that, they were just Negro or Black colleges. But in 1964, they were created because some governmental legislation was put into place, and so any institution, keyword institution, founded prior to 1964, specifically for Black students, was dubbed a HBCU. The reason why I said keyword for institution was for all the Hampton people out there, just so you got your representation. The first, in segueing a little bit more, the first HBCU was actually another institute. If you didn't know, it was the African Institute, which was founded in 1837, which was then renamed to the Institute for Colored Youth, which was then renamed to Cheyney University of Pennsylvania. Yep, there it is. So that was in 1837. That was the first public HBCU, and Wilberforce was the first private HBCU, and that was founded in 1856. Currently, there are 107 HBCUs with 57.
108. 108.
How many?
108.
108?
You missed one.
Which one I missed?
I don't know which one you missed. It's 108.
Probably Hampton. I know the youngest HBCU is the University of the Virgin Islands, and they were founded, I think, in the mid '60s. So they just beat the curve right there. But that's the youngest HBCU right there.
Another tidbit: Lincoln U. They like to argue that they're the first HBCU because before Cheyney granted degrees, they did. So Cheyney was founded first, but Lincoln, they like literally they will argue with you that they were the first actual HBCU because granting degrees kind of makes you more, I guess, more practical than a non-degree granting university.
I guess it owes more weight because I mean you can go to a school but not get the paperwork for it. So
Exactly.
So we got, it's not Hampton Shade, it's giving them that recognition because we're not just going to talk about Howard, Morehouse, and Spelman. We're going to include all the institutes. Then we have Obi did do an HBCU thread on Twitter.
I did do an HBCU thread on Twitter.
So
that is how I know someone.
Obi actually got a couple of people at Tuskegee some heat because
that was funny. That was funny.
You want to explain it?
Yeah. So basically, there's a dispute over Booker T. Washington founding Tuskegee because he was the first, like he was the founding principal, meaning he didn't necessarily found the school, but his being principal for that long helped ground the institution. So Tuskegee claimed, at least officially claimed Booker T on paper. However, I guess socially they disclaim Booker T because of they may not agree with his politics or his views. But it was really funny because I was getting a little blowback because I said Booker T founded the institution when the actual bio on Twitter also agreed with me. Like Tuskegee's official bio said founded by Booker T. Washington. And that was just hilarious. And after like the argument on the thread, they deleted his name from their bio.
Howard students making change, as we always do. And speaking of Tuskegee, a black university, HBCU named after someone who is black, because we don't really see that often. I mean, we have, Wilberforce was named after William Wilberforce, who was a white liberal philanthropist. Howard University, we're named after
Oliver Otis Howard.
There it is. See, you paid attention during virtual ASD. But an HBCU that is named after a black person, a black woman specifically, is Bethune-Cookman University. That's BCU, founded in 1908, named after Mary McLeod Bethune-Cookman. And the reason why I included BCU in this, just to give them their recognition, is because one of my first time going to Howard was during the spring, what was it? Fall open house. Yeah. And we played BCU and we lost against BCU. So shout out to BCU for having an amazing football team. And shout out to Mary Bethune-Cookman for setting the stone that would then lead to me getting my feelings hurt by seeing my football team get thrashed. My first time going to this university. It's not a lot of memories, not a lot of good memories on that one. But I think Jody might have had to fall out real quick. But Foley does mention Sterling Brown University comes in Inshallah. It's funny. But Sterling Brown University was a name that was given or a potential name that was thrown out to Howard University during the 1960s. So around the same time that Teray would have been able to go there while he was attending was because Sterling Allen Brown, for those who don't know, is one of the most prolific black writers, black professors of all time. Truly a giant when it comes to anything black. So Sterling Allen Brown was a professor at Howard, and the students rallied around him because they wanted to give the university his namesake, as well as changing the name of the university. They also wanted to change the mascot from a bison to, do you know this one?
I actually am not aware of this one.
It was in Dr. Carr's class. Which
I remember it was some other animal. I just can't remember right now. I know it, but I can't remember the animal.
Well, you don't know it because it's not an animal. It's a buffalo soldier.
I thought it was above. Anyway, continue.
I'm just saying, like, explains a lot. Jody's back with us. So if the students had their way right now, we would be going to Sterling Allen Brown University. This wouldn't say, so we say Brown University. Kind of weird.
I prefer Sterling University or Sterling Allen University.
We can talk about it afterwards when we talk to President Frederick, because I feel like Sterling would have been good. Or
Sterling would be good.
Sterling would have worked. But outside of that, we have, and then we could have been like the Buffalo Soldiers. And okay, so Jody's having internet problems. So this right here lets me know several things. The most important one being that it wouldn't be a CCIA kickoff production if there weren't some internet issues, because that's the government trying to stop us. But they won't. I believe they always try to do this to us. But speaking of Brown University and some of the things that are going on, some of the universities, HBCUs, were given the title or moniker Black Ivies, and these were Dillard, Fisk, Howard, Hampton, Morehouse, Spelman, and Tuskegee. But here's the key: a lot of these, the Black Ivy moniker was used heavily prior to the Civil Rights Movement, and we can probably attribute that to the Black Power movement and the Civil Rights movement actually centering Blackness instead of white institutions. So you don't see a lot of people use the phrase Black Ivies anymore. In fact, a lot of Black people will sort of look at you crazy if you use the term Black Ivy, because they don't want to be the Black version of white stuff. They want to be the originate, like the Black stuff of Black stuff, like we the real McCoy here. So that's one other thing. And my final tidbit about the history of HBCUs isn't so much history, but actually what they're doing in the present. And that is HBCUs in recent years produce nearly 20% of all Black college graduates on any given basis, as well as they enroll just 10% of Black college students. So what we're seeing here is that 10%, right? They enroll 10% of Black students, but they're producing twice that. And that's with being, I don't know, underfunded, marginalized, and basically looked down upon. But this is still what's going on here. And so I think that's pretty cool, because that's going to be us in a couple of years. So that right there is anything else that y'all want to just sort of throw in there real quick? History majors? I'm not in my.
Did you touch on the interesting tidbit that the term Black Ivy League actually came from two racist white sociologists that endeared the term upon HBCUs? And it wasn't really meant as a term of endearment. It was actually meant to berate HBCUs because basically their status as a Black Ivy League still made them a third-rate institution behind Ivy Leagues, public PWIs, and, you know, the worst PWIs of the bunch. So it's not necessarily anything that any of the Black Ivy League HBCU should ever have been proud of necessarily. It was a derogatory kind of term.
And about the graduating numbers, HBCUs not only graduate 20% of all Black college graduates, but also they, in certain fields, especially STEM fields, HBCUs are the leading producers of Black people in those STEM fields on a doctorate level as well as the undergraduate level. Like we really, HBCUs really are essential to our, I would say, our progress as a community, because what they do for us in those fields can't be replicated anywhere else. PWIs have not been producing those numbers.
Most definitely. And see, this is why they own, because I didn't even know that. All right, that's the doorbell. So we'll keep it pushing, because that's how we do. But I like how the doorbell did it, because if I would have timed it right, I could have been like, yeah, and we'll see you right after these messages. And then guess what I would have did? Obi, are you prepared for this one? Because I knew you was getting scared earlier.
Yeah, I'm prepared.
This episode of the Virtual Village Show has been brought to you by Truist.
Oh my God.
Hey.
I was prepared for that one.
Yeah, you sure?
I got cut off, but I was there. I was ready.
So now we're at the 30-minute mark,
Mhm.
and I didn't think the first half would take 30 minutes, but I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Ms. Bayer said we dropping knowledge, and my mom right there, who she knows you guys very well. She's an intelligent young man. So as you can see, but this right here is the part where I wanted to get into, and let me just elaborate a little bit more on what it is. This is the roundtable segment. This is the Mbongi segment, if you know a Dr. Carr course. That's right. That's right. Actually, one of the names that floated around my head for the show was Mbongi. I wanted to bite that mad hard. So this right here is the panel discussion. As you can see, there are just 3 of us right now, but there might be 3 of us, there might be 4, there might be 5, there might be as many as 6 of us, which will give us throwback to our virtual village days, if y'all seen that, where Q, Kalia, Ayana, Paul, and Trinity, all of us would just talk about certain topics and issues. And I'm really appreciative of Foley for bringing this question up right here, because now we just get to chat, like, and basically discuss certain things and give our insight on this. So the first question that we'll talk is Foley's, because we don't want to waste his time, and that is, as many institutions, especially our HBCUs, are gravitating towards elitism, what do you think we can do as students to tackle that? So it's a heavy one right there, but I feel like it's appropriate. First question of the new season, first question of the segment goes out to Mr. Foley. So what we got going on here, and we'll probably just go in a regular discussion type thing. So I'll start it off because I like talking. I like to get myself up. So I'm gonna just go. But so how do we tackle elitism in HBCUs? Is I'm gonna be honest with you. I go to Howard University, so I know a thing or two about elitism in a university. Jody might be dropping out one more time, but we're gonna keep pushing. So Howard has a history of having some elitist tendencies. I know we all know about the infamous paper bag test, like that was real. And then you can't be the Mecca without harboring some, uh, nose raising and highbrow mentalities. So how do we tackle this? Is really sort of understanding what type of students we want to be at the HBCU, because and we've seen that time and time again. Whereas a lot of these policies have been anti-black or just like white supremacist, just adjacent, and the students have rebelled against that and sort of pushed for themselves to be heard. And I think that's one of the ways we can tackle this elitism, because as we know, education in itself is a tool of the elite to bar people from participating in society. And it's really weird saying that as a student of a private university. But the first thing we can do to sort of tackle that is by being able to actually call it out. And not only are we calling this out and seeing it for what it is, but then we have to pull our thoughts and resources together to be able to address that elitism in a, I guess, meaningful manner, instead of just going out there and being like, oh, this is elitist and this is wrong. But we need to actually sort of sit down and be like, all right, it's elitist. How do we address this? And that's, to me, is figuring out what exactly is the elitism. Like, because we can just use the general term and have an idea of it, but we need to figure out, okay, it's elitism, and what are the problems that come with the elitism? So that's how I would say would be one way the students could tackle that. The floor, fellas.
Joseph, you want to go first, or should I go first?
You can go first.
Okay. So personally, I feel as though it's important we, like what Josh said, we be the students that we want to see. We be aware of what is elitist and what tendencies do cause these problems. We have to be aware of how these problems come about, how they're being implemented, because elitism, especially because I also go to Howard, I'm no stranger to that. I know that the university has historically and now been a very strong proponent of elitist attitudes. It kind of, the community can kind of breed that energy sometimes, and it's important to stay aware of that, aware of the fact that as Black people we are disadvantaged, and trying to have this elitist mentality proliferate is a problem. We should be aware of the fact that, like John said, that education is a tool of the elite to bar other people, and those other people tend to be Black people. And so when you go to an HBCU and you have an elitist attitude, you're not serving your community, you're serving yourself. And it doesn't make sense, because we should be able to be intelligent enough to realize what's going on. And I think, honestly, truthfully, we would need to organize, to mobilize, and actually spread awareness, be aware of what are the problems and how we're going to address them. And obviously, the administration, while they do, they have the university's best interests at heart. The university's interests are not always our best interests as well, because, like we said, Howard has had a history of elitism and is currently, has certain tendencies. So as students, it's honestly on us, the alum, the community around the school, to change it into what we know it can be.
Okay, so I might be playing the role of the antagonist here, but I found our viewer Foley Quavy's question interesting, because he basically made his comment with the narrative that our HBCUs are trending toward elitism. But I kind of question that, because personally, the way I see it, I feel like our HBCUs have been trending somewhat away from elitist attitudes. I say this especially because, like, we've seen this happen throughout the decades, ever since that, the 1964 marker came that actually designated HBCUs as HBCUs. Like, a lot of HBCUs saw this big brain drain where the kids that weren't allowed to go to, the most prominent PWIs now could and would flock to those HBCUs, because it was never about like being around their people. They were forced to be around their people. Now that they didn't have to anymore, they fled their universities, and a lot of HBCUs actually had to lower their admission standards to fit the needs of the Black community. And that's what we're seeing here now. As for elitist attitudes within HBCUs, like within the HBU diaspora, meaning like, Howard University, Spelman University, Morehouse University, they're all looked at as, better or just like more sustainable than other HBCUs. That should definitely be disseminated, because we are all historically Black college or university students. And, no university is above one other, especially when they're Black.
Yeah, and I'm glad you took that approach to it, Jody, because Ms. Chioma, she says, I totally disagree to Foley's question. I graduated from an HBCU and it's all but that. And I like what you said with the fact that it's sort of gravitating towards being non-elitist and being more communal, because, okay, so we have Du Bois and the Talented 10th ideology, and also Alan Locke Hall, HBCU, Howard, us. Alan Locke was mad elitist as well. And then we see a lot of these Black, bourgeoisie, these Black elites, they start going to these actual Ivies and other prestigious white institutions, which, as you said, was a brain drain. But to be honest, it was more so an opening of the floodgates, because a lot of the people who were more individualistic and self-serving, they went on to become the Black elite, which was sitting at these white tables. Whereas a lot of these Black students who were disenfranchised, they were able to get into these spaces, which is why we see a lot of these student-led protests come from HBCUs. And A&T, right up there in Greensboro, they held the first sit-ins. And then immediately when A&T had their sit-in, several other HBCUs, Howard included, they went and they did the same thing. And that was students leading the protest. So I definitely agree with the fact that with the HBCUs becoming moving away from elitism, and the fact that it's more of a race conscious ideology here. We're Black people and we're putting ourselves and our people first, in a sense. And Devontae said making Howard more accessible is important, which to me, I think in changing that terminology because I wanted to expand on this with another question for you guys, is like, when it says making Howard more accessible, not just to the actual students of the school, but to the Black community at large. And then we get into the Yeah, we're getting into the gentrification question. Yeah, this is the shot. This is the shot of that.
I was just about to ask.
Yeah, most definitely. We're in the deep end now.
Because
So
elitism is a multifaceted thing, and just because those black elite did go onto those Ivy Leagues, there are other ways that I feel many HBCUs have implemented certain things that you can see at maybe that may have trickled down from those black elitists, I would say, past. And that's what I wanted to, that's what kind of what I was getting at, honestly. Not necessarily the demographic, but certain things you have to admit that you can clearly see the ties to that elitism from the past. And it's still here today.
most definitely. And I think we see, but this is sort of a segue question. And like my mom said, you got great perspectives, but you guys do. And to me, this question about accessibility and the gentrification is more so because we understand that black people don't really have capital in the country. So, and a lot of the money is turned on and off by people in high places who tend to be white people. And we see that this places a burden on the university, from Howard's perspective, where Howard University has had to rent out and lease out actual dorms so then they can be retrofitted to become living spaces for other people. And it's supposed to be housing for students, but it's supposed to be technically off-campus housing. But then they're starting to rent these places out for like how much? Like, I think it was like a couple hundred. Like, I know it was over like 12, 14.
Yeah.
Like a month.
Yeah.
And we see, and this is another thing that's been happening in the AUC where, and I know, so if we get like someone in the AUC, they can probably speak on this a little bit more than I am, but it's the fact that HBCUs are aiding in the gentrification of their communities, of these historically black communities, in order to make ends meet, because the funding just isn't there. And we can speak to that about how it's sort of a double-edged sword in the sense that we're building this black like educational unit, but at the price of actual black people's living environments and homes. And it's like a weird thing to ask you guys, like, what's one way to combat black gentrification of black spaces, especially since we haven't been on Howard's campus yet. So, but I'm gonna do it. So you got it. Jody froze.
I'm frozen?
Nah, you good.
No, you're not frozen.
I'm definitely not frozen. So let's say,
he said,
yeah, he was like,
oh my God. All right. So Obi, are you gonna speak or do you want me to speak?
you can definitely speak first.
Okay, so I would say that in the event that we were on campus, like we don't know exactly who is actively gentrifying these communities right now, but I'm saying, like, if we were on campus, we'd definitely be able to stop it. And then Obi is looking kind of skeptical about like who we know and who we know.
I feel like we know damn well who.
Okay, yeah, we know that Howard University is actively aiding in it because we are the people. Like, well, the university are the people that are selling it. But who are they contracting it to is the question. Who is looking at the areas around Howard University and saying, okay, I want this to be my land, and I'm going to put all these white people in this land, make it inaccessible for the black community here, this and that.
I'm not gonna lie. I feel like it's obvious. Oh, he froze.
he froze. He cutting in and out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over him, but I feel like we know who's gentrifying the areas around Howard and the old buildings that Howard used to own. I think it's very clear. Like the DC residents of the white community have not only been not obstructing, let me say a different word, making the campus their home freely, walking their dogs and everything, all the way to going through old dorms to get to Whole Foods and everything. I think it's very clear who's occupying those spaces, and it's not Howard students. And I don't know. Now, I don't speak on behalf of the university. I don't know why those buildings were sold. I don't know what the plan was or what the plan is going forward. But as of right now, you can clearly see the effect it's having on the Howard community around. Like, we've all seen the outrage on social media we've all seen, at least in person, we know somebody is there outraged as well, recording these things. Somebody's telling them to get off the campus. Definitely respect the yard. Definitely.
Right, they are most
No, we know it's the white people in DC who are doing this to the campus.
Jody, you back? Man, I know Jody has something to say. But here we have Ms. Payne saying elitism creates a visible divide and brews a culture of I can't. Not sure if I'm far off with my response, but HBCUs have to do their part to ensure that all education is more important than status. And I would say it's not elitism isn't more of an I can't. It's more of a projection on other people where it's more like you can't, in the sense that I'm going here or I'm attending Howard, you can't attend Howard, or I'm doing X, you can't do this. And it's a gatekeeping in a way. So that's the visible divide. I agree though. I would just say that the person can't doing the person who is holding the person doing the blocking is basically preventing the other person from coming in. But I know that there is a certain topic that people wanted to speak on, and we sort of touched on it here and there with, the justification and the moving in of the sort of the colonizing of the HBCU. And I just want to let it be known. This topic was slated. Yeah, this topic was slated before any of this stuff happened on social media. I wanted to talk about the role of HBCUs before any of this stuff happened on social media. And one of the questions that we need to talk about here is, like, when I mentioned the role of HBCUs, we understand that. Well, 1 second here before we get into the next one. Foley has something to say, and it'd be cool because instead of like him sitting there, in the YouTube comments, he could be on the show. But we'll see soon. But so there are local organizations here advocating for gentrification to stop. Howard is one of the few Black spaces we have left in the upper wards of the city, and even they are aiding in the gentrification. So that's Foley giving a little bit more insight on the DC situation on the DC front. Thank you, brother.
And again, I just want to I am technically a representative of the student body. Like I said, like Josh said earlier, gentrification is a double-edged sword. There are reasons why certain things are sold. Now, I don't know. Like I said, I don't work with the university directly like that, but it's not as simple as let's just sell this for money. Like, there usually is a driving force, and just in general, when it comes to Black HBCUs selling their properties, a lot of HBCUs are in danger of closing due to funding or losing their accreditation because they can't keep a steady income. That is why it's important to kind of look at all of the issues. And I definitely understand what you're saying, because you're not wrong. You definitely are not wrong, but it's not a black and white picture. It definitely isn't a black and white picture. And that's elitism too. That it's not black and white, because there are certain HBCUs who definitely do serve the communities that they're in very well, and they're very accepting and open. And it's not so much as like an issue of standard, it's just an issue of capacity and how much they can actually, accommodate in their communities.
All right, see if Jody back. You good, brother? You having a Teddy Riley moment?
Yeah.
All right, sound a little bit.
Internet connectivity user.
Bro, I told you it's the government. I told y'all it's the government, bro. They was gonna get one of us. I'm just thinking.
Which organization?
And they out here messing with my internet connection. They don't want me to speak to my brothers, and they don't want me to speak to my Black audience. This is what's going on,
bro. I told you it's a plot. It's a plot by the government to stop Black media from educating Black people.
It's disgusting. That's what it is.
But to get into the next one, because I know like people, this blew up on Twitter a couple days ago, and it's been a trending thing. But before we just get right into the social media aspect of it and what's popping, I really wanted to get to the fact that we talked about the financial constraints and hardships of running an HBCU. And so let's just get into it. Like, many HBCUs have begun to lose accreditation, and like we know, one lost their accreditation where they had to create a GoFundMe, and then they raise the money so they can be reaccredited. And for those who don't know what accreditation is, if you attend a university or college and they lose accreditation, then that means that your degree it won't be recognized by most places for
Most places.
yeah, like so it's really important for universities to be accredited, because if they don't have that, then they basically just like giving you education.
It makes so many issues, even funding issues.
Mm-hmm.
Federal funding, it becomes a problem.
It's a multi-layered issue, and these universities are losing accreditation, or they're just outright closing, which is really detrimental. And so what are before we get into the like what are solutions or like potential helps to the financial burden, due to the financial burdens as well as the overall like black state of wealth in the country, HBCUs have begun to have increasingly non-black student populations. And what does this mean for historically black colleges and universities and black education to you guys?
I'm gonna let Joseph take this one first, and then I'll go in because
You threw me to the sharks. All right. So the prospect of many underfunded, low enrollment HBCUs having an influx of white students attending. I think that it's a really tough prospect to think about, but I guess what has to happen. All right, I Obi, you got an answer yet? Because
I actually do have an answer.
I gave you time for this one.
I have an answer. I personally don't like it, and I don't.
Yeah, it's not something to like.
It's not a mask off, bro.
But it's what do you do about that situation?
Okay. So what do you do about the situation? Personally, I think that we're about to get to the controversy it's bumming. That's the next kind of subtopic, but we're kind of like just talking about it generally right now. Personally, to fix that problem, I'm not sure what can necessarily be done besides making HBCUs more accessible to black students who may not be attending because of funding issues. And then that ties into how do we get HBCUs more funded, which is another issue that needs different solutions. So it's a trickle down thing. And a lot of white people get accepted on minority scholarships, or they see it as a cheaper alternative to other PWIs. And that's honestly, in my opinion, is a serious issue. I don't believe, because white people have so much privilege, so many options. They have the realm of possibilities endless. To come to a predominantly black space and decide that you want to go here when you have anywhere else in the nation to go to, is a serious issue, a very serious issue. And solving it won't be easy because there are certain HBCUs that are literally predominantly white now.
Do you know?
Yeah, Bluefield State College, that is predominantly white now.
Where Bluefield at?
West Virginia.
That's another thing, though. Can we talk about
90% white? 90% white.
Oh, wow. But can we talk about this prospect of minority scholarships? Because, like, I keep hearing about it more and more. I've heard about it a lot since December, and I've always called into question the reliability of, like, I kind of think of it as because I haven't really heard of any instances where, like, an actual white person applied to an HBCU and got a minority scholarship. I know they don't do it at Howard.
I think they get diversity. I think it's a diversity.
It's not like branded as a minority scholarship, but they. I don't know how else to like explain it. Like it's kind of the same way, like how people get tokenized to represent I guess you could say, a demographic.
Yeah.
White kids applying to HBCUs kind of get the same treatment.
They get invited to the cookout.
That's a weird thing. Because like, I guess since I haven't seen it, I'm kind of like, where is this happening? I wouldn't certainly doubt it, because I know that I applied to like a few predominantly white institutions, and the financial aid packages they gave me, like they had, stipulations for scholarships in there that was like, okay, you're a first generation student, we're going to give you a scholarship for that. You're a low income black student, like here's a scholarship for that. But I don't, is that even legal to give out scholarships like as an institution purely based on like someone's race?
I don't think.
I think it's the
Well,
diversity quota thing.
there's a diversity quota, and I don't think, like I said, I don't think it's branded as such. I think it's a very much
Oh, it's like
implicit thing.
it's a loophole thing, is what you're saying.
Basically, yeah, because it's like white institutions needed diversity quotas because they're racist. And then they were like, gotcha. And then like, okay, open up these black spaces because you need X amount of non-black students. It's a diversity thing.
Okay, now that you said that, can we segue into the controversy of the Spelman College student?
Because they going
that
crazy.
That ties in.
So before we get into that one, should HBCUs be able to deny admissions to non-blacks so they remain the same? As we were saying, I'm gonna have to say no, just for like to put that on the record. Nah, I feel like that's highly illegal. And then, no, bro, that'll start opening up a can of worms, and then we get back to just like outright segregation again. And it's like you can't come to an HBCU, you can't come to, but it does open the door because I know Jody, you were saying how like historically, women colleges, like they've been able to deny males. So
yeah, they've been able to deny cis men basically admissions to the colleges because like what they qualify as is a historically women's college. So, you know, I'm not sure because that does sound like a Title IX violation, but it's just like, you want to preserve the culture of these schools. You want to preserve the history of these schools. You want to preserve like the safe space that these schools provide to women at these universities. So it does sound like they deserve and should be allowed to deny admission to cis men. The only issue is like HBCUs, most of them were founded by white men, and they were founded with the stipulation that, okay, you know, this is going to be a basically like non-sectarian, all races, all sexes are allowed type of thing, which opened the door for white people to apply to these schools in the first place. But I'm saying to preserve culture, to preserve history, to preserve that safe space, you know, like should we get the same treatment that historically women's colleges get in being able to reject non-black people? Because it is kind of a breach on our safe space when white people do come into these universities.
Do you want me to answer that question?
that was just like a passing one. You can go into it though.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I don't want you to answer it if you have something very controversial that like compromises the integrity of the show type answer.
I mean, if it's mad flagrant, then you can
flagrant. I backstage. That a parallel can be drawn between the two.
Yeah.
First show we gonna get canceled.
That is how I feel. I feel as though there should be no reason why an HBCU would ever go majorly white. That should not have happened. There should be some type of stipulation in place, not even barring white people or non-black people, but to the point where it is no longer majorly black, because the whole act that created HBCUs was founded on the stipulation that they had to have served a predominantly black population before 1964. So there should be stipulations in place that prevent HBCUs from no longer being predominantly black. At the very minimums. You said what?
But also, I don't know what Issa just said, but like if this happened, it's very possible that these colleges would no longer exist, though. Like there would be no enrollment period. So what do you do about that situation?
Well, we would have to examine why there's so few black students enrolling, or why maintaining a majority of black students is a problem, and then solve those issues.
Because the majority of black people are don't have any money, and the educational system is racist and doesn't want them to make it to college. That's one thing. But like I was saying, what you're proposing is a mandatory minimum. So think of it. So it's like the diversity quota thing, except you need a mandatory minimum of black people. So like what, 51% of black students?
51%.
It dips to 49%. This man's like, no, I gotta wrap it up.
Even if it's that, like, I know it sounds funny, but it's like it's important to maintain the culture of HBCUs as we know it, because there's no, like, I'm gonna keep saying this. There's no reason why HBCU should be 90% white.
Okay, but we've been on this one for a minute, and I'm glad we have. But Dr. Quarles has just a softball question. Should all students that attend an HBCU be required to at least one African American history course? And oh wait, before we get into that, Ms. Starr wanted to know, why is it important to maintain the integrity of Black spaces and Black culture?
Because these Black spaces and Black cultures are pillars in our community. Like, they have literally upheld our communities for so long. They have been the birthplace and the meccas of so much production, of so much progress, and to lose these historically important places that can still carry us forward even now would be detrimental. Like I said earlier in the beginning of the live stream, HBCUs produced the leading numbers of Black graduates on an undergraduate and graduate level in the STEM fields. If HBCUs are, as Josh said earlier, colonized to the point where they cannot no longer do that, we're losing major progress. It would be a major pitfall for us to fall into. It wouldn't make sense. Like, it's so important to protect the integrity of HBCUs.
Well said, well said. But this is a Black podcast. This is a Black platform. This is a Black show, and we've talked about the non-Black people encroaching on Black spaces. But we need to and I'm glad Foley brought this up here, because the question is HBCUs in the diaspora, and we have and he has this right here, which says HBCUs showcase the diversity of our people on the continent and in the diaspora. It seems as if our schools are becoming more fetishized for our culture instead of our value. What can we do? But the reason why I wanted to bring Foley up there is because he mentioned the fetishization of Black culture, and this is everyone's favorite topic. Old girl from Spelman.
We somewhat touched on this, though.
I know we touched on it because we talked about the encroachment, and then we talked about the fetishization here. And what I've been seeing, well, for those who don't know, recently there was a non-Black person who goes to Spelman College. She transferred there, and it caused much discourse and disarray in the Black Twitter world, in the Black HBCU community, because HBCUs are Black safe spaces, and it was the way that the wording of her announcement was. People compared it to white people going on mission trips in Africa and just sort of being in places in white saviorism. And it was like, she was like, I'm in the home of Black girl magic, and then obviously being not a Black girl. So Jody just got Teddy Riley'd again. That's staple that real quick. We're gonna put that on a shirt, Teddy Riley. But so Jody will be back in a minute. But we want discussing that because we sort of touched on white people being in these spaces and fetishizing the culture, because you want to go for the Black experience, which is really weird because that's such a varied experience to do. It's like you can't go to an HBCU and get the whole Black experience in one. It's more so like you get a small segment. You get the Black collegiate experience, not the full thing. And since many Black people aren't actual college graduates, then it's like, what are we really doing here? And to me, which is why I want to get into this it's you get a diet Black experience in a sense, because it's a very select, in the sense that you get the Black educated experience. So think of it as like going basically, instead of being dipped into the water of being put in like a black urban environment. Like, so think of it like this. Instead of going to Atlanta and then going to like College Park and then just sort of being like, hey, I'm gonna make Black friends, it's like, no, let me go to Spelman real quick, and it's cool. And instead of being dipped into like a tank full of sharks, not calling Black people sharks, it's an analogy, trust me, you get put in this cage and you're insulated from actually being around a sort of Blackness. And it's a fetishization, because it's like, hey, I get to be around and among Black people, but I'm still safe, or I still feel safe. And that's what it felt like to me. Y'all can pick that up the way y'all want it to. Dr. Coral said every HBCU student, regardless of race or ethnicity, should be required to take at least 4 credit hours of African American history. And this is why I love it, because I'm tying all of this back together. Y'all can't see that though, because Foley's question with the fetishization, Hardy's question with the woman going to Spelman, and then sort of elaborating here, from aside from non-Black people, there are even some Black people that come to HBCUs to find their Blackness. What do we do with those people? Basically, how does this relate to Dr. Coral's question, you might ask, and how do we relate all of this jive, you mastermind of sorts? Basically, we have these mandatory classes because a lot of the times when white people come to HBCUs, they want to do what? They want to learn about what?
Black people
And Black culture. So you think that instead of implementing mandatory African American courses at HBCUs, these courses should just be implemented at where?
Predominantly white institutions.
Yeah, you got it. You've got it. They finishing my sentences, y'all. We go together. I knew I had him on the show.
Listen.
So here we already have mandatory courses, mandatory African American courses. You have to take at least one, and I feel like we could open the door for having mandatory African American courses at PWIs to sort of keep away the fetishizers of Black culture.
And I would say, additionally, if it's going to be mandatory at a PWI, I would have maybe the rubric be set up a certain way, maybe because it wouldn't be possible, I guess, to have an HBCU professor teach it, but maybe follow a certain rubric or guideline. Because, for example, one of my friends goes to Yale, and he takes an African American. Watch you.
Of course, you would have a friend that goes to Yale.
He takes an African American history course, but it's taught by a French woman who immigrated here a decade ago.
Is she a Black woman?
No. So it's like she can teach the textbook information, but she has absolutely no connection to the source material or real passion for the subject because she can't relate to this stuff. It's very methodical, very scientific. And that's, I think, still can lead to fetishization. That word.
Skip it.
That word. That word. Because if you're not getting the real experience from a class either, the most you're getting from a class is probably knowledge and history and information that is useful, but you won't really understand unless your professor takes the time to embed that in you. Like Dr. Carl, love him because he takes the time to really drench you through the course, more than the course, honestly. His personal anecdotes, his anecdotes from his friends. He takes the time to introduce you to the authors of the books that you're reading. He takes the time to really immerse you so you fully understand the ins and outs. And not every professor can do that, and definitely not a white lady from France.
I agree.
Okay, they didn't get, like, this woman doesn't have like a PhD in African American studies or anything.
Okay, so she has a PhD in history.
That doesn't necessarily translate though.
She's teaching a course in African American. I'm assuming she's accredited
at best, bro. Definitely not. Like, come on, bro.
Like you can't be a white lady from France and teach me about history. Or I can't, if I was white and I'm going to another white person to learn about Black history, like it doesn't track. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's never going to be there. It's not going to track.
We have Mimi who says, in reference to the lady at Spelman, she could literally take Black classes, watch online courses, read books on the Black experience. You do not need to infringe on Black spaces to understand us. As much as Black culture has been, and she wrote a lot because it's 2 comments, commodified, it's real easy to consume Black culture. Taking an admission from a Black woman's hand is fetishizing.
Period.
Fetishizing.
And then we have Ms. Dantaya Miller Washington. Nikki Giovanni developed Racism 101 when she, Ms. Miller Washington, was at BT, shout out to Tech. There is nothing more powerful than a strong African American teaching a Black course. And I think that's really the sum of it. But we've talked about white people in these Black spaces, but this is a question that really eludes a lot of people, and Foley brought this up. So we're going to backtrack a little bit. Aside from non-Black people being there, some Black people come to HBCUs to find their Blackness. And what do we see? What do we do with those people? And this is a question that's really dynamic because Blackness in itself is subjective, but it's also been used as a generalization. And some people get it and some people don't. And then you have to figure out what it is. But you do go to Howard University, and you do know a couple of people who would call themselves new Blacks of a sort. Yeah, let's hope we don't get canceled first go through. But like, Also, I just want you guys to know we've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes, and the viewers keep going up. This is like mad encouraging, bro. Like, because people really like hearing us talk. But
It's definitely me, but it's okay.
I know Jai loves that fact. He loves that fact.
no. But the new blacks thing, right? Dang, that's not even the question. Find their blackness. When it comes to
That wasn't even the question.
it's funny because like it's so many people who are just like in my head right now when I think of this question.
Oh my God, Jai, stop talking, man.
No, but it's fine because it's like so we have the finding their blackness, because basically it's the same sort of activation that we see old girl from Spelman or who goes to Spelman do, where these people, these black students, come to HBCUs in an attempt to enamor themselves with black culture, authentic black culture. And we see this, the term new blacks is someone who has grown up and who's fairly young, maybe a millennial or younger. And this is because of the the incident of integration, where you have black people becoming a part of these suburban and white spaces, and while they're there, they ingrain themselves hand in hand with white culture, which then their children have a disconnect with black culture and black people. So these children then go to black spaces and they feel insecure in them, and this is how we get students coming to Howard University and trying to find their blackness, because their parents, no shade to their parents, but their parents had a certain affinity towards whiteness, which is why they left certain black spaces and they went and sort of joined them, and they didn't ingrain a strong sense of blackness into their children. And then we have their children trying to come back and find their blackness in a sense. And I don't like how Foley phrased this question, because he's like, what do we do with those people?
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
I think bad militant, bro.
It's a really weird for you.
I was like, what?
Like, dog, he could have been like, how do we help these people? He's like, what do we do with them?
He's like, how do we help these people?
It sounds really Haitian revolutionary. I'm just gonna be honest with you. But to me, I think the first I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really fool with people who trying to find their blackness, because it's like it's not something that somebody else, especially somebody who's like, what are we, like 18, 19, 17, we can't really help other people find their blackness. But in a sense, we can also just be their friend, because that's really something that you got to do on your own, bro. Like, that's a part of your identity. Ain't nobody gonna help you find your blackness. You just got to be comfortable with your blackness. And I think here we go here, because Ms. Miller Washington says that HBCUs offer black students the ability to connect with other blacks from across the world, is able to open their minds and broaden their view of black excellence, which I agree with, because you broaden the idea of what blackness is. But in sense, it turns out to be you being able to help, understand where you are in relation to your environment. So I do think that, which is why Jai is so smart for choosing this topic, and the role of the diaspora, because
I feel like I think we may conflate finding your blackness with finding yourself, which is weird. Like John said, it's very dynamic when you think about it, because blackness is part of your identity. So it goes in hand with finding yourself. And this age, the college age, is when people do tend to get a deeper understanding of who they are as people. So when Foley asks, what do we do with them? I say embrace them, because it may be a little awkward, because like Josh said, they may have had an affinity for whiteness or have been surrounded by whiteness their entire lives, but they are at this HBCU for a reason. There are so many different types of black people, and blackness is a very expansive term. And that's why I feel like at Howard or HBCUs in general, you will find every single type of black person that you can imagine. And so when someone says they go to an HBCU to find their blackness, I think it's very accurate to say that, or we should embrace those who do say that, because they obviously want to find themselves and understand what it means to be black. And this is not for the white people, obviously. This is for the black people who have made the conscious decision to remove themselves from these white environments and to plunge themselves into a predominantly black space.
No, I feel you.
And I feel like, the way Foley framed this question was kind of, like, we reprimand these people, like, I don't think that's necessarily how it should go, but I just feel like, growing up around whiteness, being surrounded by whiteness, that does come, with a sense of anti-blackness, because that's basically the inherent idea around whiteness. So I feel like in the event that you see one of these people trying to quote unquote find their blackness at an historically black university, what you just do is you just be like, hey man, like what you're saying right now, what you're doing, like that's anti-black. You got to cut that out because that's not how we do things here. But like, as far as what do we do with these people, you just got to let them rock, man. You got to let them find themselves because we're all young. Nobody's like perfect. Nobody's completely themselves. People don't even find themselves until their adulthood. So it's just like we're all in this together. We're all doing this together.
At the earliest. And back to the question, in the sense that, like they said, it's just a growing experience. It might be really difficult for people who are a little bit more culturally affirming of black people than other people. So like Jody said, it's really just like nipping it in the bud and dispelling a lot of the myths that they might have about other black people or the black community at large. And I think that just comes with being a friend to them, and not even being a friend, but just looking out. So when it comes to, and like something that's been like said countless times in the comments, is that blackness is dynamic, it's subjective, it's expansive. We have black people from the South, suburban, and we have black people from cities, you know what I'm saying? Like Obi right there, Obi's in New York. And then we have those in the Caribbean, South America. I know I got a friend, Yanu, he's all the way in Nigeria right now. So if we see how like expansive blackness truly is, and like you said, it's like a sense of finding yourself, but also finding like your comfortability in the community. I think that's what that means. And in a sense that when someone is like, yeah, I'm trying to find my blackness, or I want to like know more about black people, it's like I want to be a member of the community who's culturally aware and conscious of like my community and our contributions, so that I can then help the community. Now that's mad difficult because like you just see some of the questions that they be posing, and it's just like things that are like elementary to you. It takes other people a learning curve, which goes back into what Dr. Quarles was saying with these mandatory African-American courses taught by black people. We discussed that as well, in the sense that, because like y'all were in freshman seminar with Dr. Carr. That's perfect right there, because wasn't it just like a free-for-all dialogue panel where y'all
free-for-all dialogue on blackness?
Man. Yeah, like that's all it was. So just like having like that, except having that school-wide, because I'm kind of mad I missed out on that. But just
they don't have that in SOC?
Nope.
Hey, Obi, you say it with me, bro.
Yeah, COAS is the flagship. So flagship. But I was gonna contest the comment I just read. Someone said Howard is not the place to find your blackness. I said I don't think there's no better place to find your blackness.
I would disagree.
I think I would rather you find what it means to be black or identify with blackness at Howard than somewhere than elsewhere, unless you mean in an actual black community, which is different.
I'd rather be at A&T for real, find my blackness. Not gonna lie to you. At least they get to be on campus finding their blackness. I'm just saying.
Comment. But like I said,
I'll go and find it at Bluefield State.
The HBCU is the best place, hands down. There's nowhere else where I think you would be able to see how expansive the black diaspora truly is, all at once.
So I didn't mean to cut you off. You got it.
No, you could. That's basically what I have to say. I don't think it makes sense, or at that stage in your life, going to college, if you want to find your blackness, go to an HBCU. Or if you want to find yourself and your blackness and what it means to be black to you and what type of black person you are, an HBCU is the perfect place.
I agree, but also like to expand off of what Obi's saying, don't just go to an HBCU and make a couple friends that are in your circle, and then you matriculate like that. But like HBCUs, like we said, are typically in Black environments, and like we said, there's the portion, the HBCU portion, the college graduate portion of, oh, this is Blackness. Go out into your communities. Like the reason why I was so gung ho for going to DC was because DC is that's Chocolate City, man, or trying to be against all the gentrification. So like when you're in DC, or in our case, go out into the community, join some other orgs, because you can see like this is how you become a part of a community. Like Howard is a community, but then DC is also a tight-knit community, even if they do have some questionable music. So that's nothing against Go-Go. Go-Go is cool, but that DC rap scene, like the DMV rap scene, is mad weird. I'm sorry.
You're doing DC for DMV rap.
No, so some of the
stand for
is tight.
Okay, but Go-Go music versus DMV rap.
I was saying questionable music. Go-Go is cool. Questionable.
I'm saying I question Go-Go more than DMV rap.
Yeah, they gonna cancel you for this one. This is what's gonna get us canceled.
I respect Go-Go and its impact on the culture. Definitely important, definitely cool, but it's just not for me. It's just not for me. So
Go-Go
when you say you question DMV rap more, I think they're gonna cancel you harder for that.
See, look, bro.
No, because DMV rap is heavily.
I gotta go.
I'm telling you, bro.
Bro.
Go-Go music.
Go-Go is crazy now.
Rap.
Like you're losing. You're losing.
I'm saying Go-Go is not bad. It's just not for me. But for you to question DMV rap and blame DC for DMV rap, it's just like,
I don't even know if there's that many DC rappers that like
don't push.
When I think of DMV rap, the Maryland rappers.
Oh my god!
I told you, bro. Like no, like Maryland rap, like Baltimore. I'm sorry, that's garbage. I'm sorry, bro. That accent is terrible.
Nah, bro. Like one of the largest Howard demographics, and told them that they're trash.
What that mean to me?
It's just one of the largest. It's only a few people.
Yeah, just a few people.
But this is the last question. We're we deep in the music, and we talked a little bit here and there, but we wanted to last question here before we sort of wrap things up, because we have been going, we having a great time. But so this one here, you guys are history majors, you go to Howard University, so one of your prerequisites being on the show is doing a little bit here and there about Howard's history. So yeah, this is the gotcha question. What role has the HBCU administration played in perpetuating white supremacy and anti-blackness, and how have students responded to these transgressions? I know
you. Mr. Freshman, I have no comment.
As Mr. Freshman, he has no comment. Okay, so
it was a joke, but I'll say something. Continue.
Before we get into it, Dr. Carlos wants to know, what about jazz?
Jazz is fire.
Excellent. Excellent.
Jazz is amazing.
Black art.
It's like quintessential. Like that is beautiful music, bro. That's
Harlem that? Yes. Go. Y'all got it.
Back to the question.
It's no
No, he got a
that is the administration stopping him from talking. This is exactly what I said.
That's how you know. That's how you know he was about to start spitting heat, because they froze him like this.
That is
froze me.
Nobody
knows he was about to go. Joe, do you want to try?
Maybe it's a sign that I shouldn't even be speaking on this topic. If they're gonna, try to clap me or whatever. But I've been developing a theory that since Howard University is a federally chartered university, it has to cater to the white power structure in order to keep its funding. And this is seen with the fact that Howard University was an informant to the FBI on Kwame Ture. Okay, so since 1968, Howard University students had been protesting for a blacker university. This was seen, they were asking for a more Afrocentric curriculum. They didn't want any white professors. They wanted a renaming of the university, which was after a white man, Oliver Otis Howard, who used to go and hunt Native Americans or whatever. to Sterling Allen Brown University, you know, the English professor that was at Howard University. And they were like, nah, you know, we're not doing that. And then the year before, they arrested a bunch of students that opposed the Vietnam War. And then Howard University never heeded their demands. So it happened again 21 years later. Howard University students are like, I want a blacker university. This white power structure thing that we are adhering to, I'm not with it. You know what Howard University said to that? They're like, we're going to call the riot police on this peaceful protest of our black students. And, you know, we're also going to hire this Republican white man who was making fun of a white candidate for president being a part of the NAACP. So Howard University has always known what they are doing. They are trying to keep their funding by catering to the white power structure.
In all seriousness, when our scholarships disappear, we're gonna play.
This is the moment. This is the moment.
This is the clip.
Not done.
He's not done.
He's not even done yet.
Back in the duffel bag.
On 3 separate occasions has Howard University been referred to as a plantation. One in 1968, when a student referred to Howard University as a plantation that caters to the federal government. In 1989, when E. Ethelbert Miller, who worked in the Afro-American department at Howard University, was like, you get the sense that this Howard University is a plantation, and James E. Cheek, the president of the university, is the overseer. And then again in 2017, under our current administration, when you know it was spray painted on the cement. You know it was spray painted on the cement.
Wait,
this is Howard University. We're never going to get this black university until we, you know, do some upheaving.
okay.
Duffel bag, Jody.
Oh my God.
Duffel bag, Jody.
Wow. I think he said everything. Well, he missed one major thing, which I guess I'll say, the tenure rule put in place does actively cycle out a lot of black professors, and it's again another anti-black policy.
Toni Morrison was one of those professors
and was kicked out of the university after 7 years. She couldn't teach anymore because of that tenure rule. And it's like Toni Morrison, rest her soul, died so recently. Like, imagine how many students, how many generations she could have impacted had she been allowed to stay at Howard full time. And it's crazy because so many talented black professors, the same black professors that we're producing, are being cycled out of these universities, out of jobs. And it's honestly crazy to me. It has to be mentioned. Like, you can't hide from this. The tenure rule?
Tenure.
So
yeah,
that means
you gotta enunciate. Like, you got it?
Tenure, yeah. TENURE, for how long they're allowed to stay in that office of professor. So the rule is that these professors, they're untenured, meaning that they don't have a contract saying that they can stay there for an extended period of time. Meaning after 7 years, they will be removed from the university and there's nothing that they can do about it. And they've been actually fighting this issue for a long time. Now, this comment, I said it earlier, and Jai and Jody looked at me very weirdly. Like, Howard, the administration, Howard University and the Mecca are in the same location, but they are not the same thing. Howard University and the Mecca are in the same location, but they're not the same thing. The administration at Howard, or let me just say this: Howard University has Howard University's best interests at heart. Now, whether that is anti-black or not,
best interest at heart. Yeah, their best interest.
Their best interest at heart. Now, the Mecca, which is the culmination of the students in the alumni network, is not necessarily always what Howard is trying to preserve or necessarily cater to. And this is historically accurate. Like, even you can see it throughout history, like that raid that Jody mentioned. The just so much, even the fact that the students have to protest to make their HBCU a blacker university. You can see throughout history that Howard University and the Mecca are not always on the same page. That is as much as I'm gonna say.
I'm glad you said it. And originally we had like 90 minutes for this show. And I was like, we might be able to do 45. Y'all boys can talk. I give you that one, bro. He had to take a sip of water after that. Jody was deep in her duffel bag going. Like, I don't even know like how to end this one for real. But
Scholarships.
but I mean, best thing I can say is like, whew, hope they don't take our scholarships on this one, bro. But you know, hey, first show, we had the energy, we kept it, we didn't set the bar. So if you're watching, you know what happened, you know what's coming. Any closing words before we go to battle, fellas?
Thank you guys for tuning in. I actually had a great time. I will hopefully be a reoccurring face on this. It's a great program, with a great aim, a great mission, and I really enjoyed my time here.
Thank you for having me, Jamir. It was a pleasure to be on here. I like talking about these topics. I like talking about HBCUs, and there's not too many opportunities where you get to talk about these types of things. So it was nice to have the platform. And you know, if Howard University takes my scholarship, I may very well transfer to Virginia State University.
Come to VSU. I mean, it's right up the street from me in Petersburg.
And that is my backup.
What? Okay, sure. But thank you guys for being here. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. EST. We keep it pumping, we keep it going. This is only the first part of it. We talked about the issue in the contemporary. Thursday, we talk about the issue in the future. That right there, that's that 2050 and beyond portion. We've covered everything up to now, and now we leave you all with this right here. So with these parting words from our sponsors, we out.
Buying or selling a home doesn't have to be difficult. At the James Allen Group, we work tirelessly to get families into homes and to get our listings sold quickly at the best price. James Allen, our principal broker, has over 30 years of experience as a realtor. As a U.S. Navy veteran, his knowledge of Hampton Roads and its community is a vital tool in meeting the home buying needs of military families. If you're ready to buy or sell your home, contact the James Allen Group at 757-449-8322. Sign up today for our free home buyer or seller seminar at jamesallengroup.com.